The emphasis of the apostolic life is on the pastoral needs of the church and the world. The purpose is to render service to those in need in the name of the church, and the structure is determined by the ministerial situation. What happens here when there is a heavy emphasis on here, I think fraternal life begins to suffer. Anyway, we will look at that more afterwards. And in terms of way of life, the apostolic life is an association of all members. The emphasis is on each individual sharing his talents and gifts in the service of the church and the world. The leadership function is to support and encourage individual development as well as responsiveness to the emerging needs. And so this is the leadership, is to put members in response. If you try to look at this, we are also trying to respond, but it is within the context of relationships, building relationships, and within the discernment of a serving and loving community, hopefully as our ideal calls us. And in terms of individuals, they enjoy some form of independence with a measure of connectedness, co-workers, cooperators. And the spirituality compared with the relational spirituality expected of us, ministerial spirituality, searching for God in the world, in the loving service of those who are in need, and emphasis is on relationship of the service to the other, the horizontal dimension, to God in the other, the world. Ministry is a way of praying, a little time devoted to either private or communal prayer. The goal is to become contemplative in action, contemplation and action. Now we're trying to see those distinctiveness because it has been a conversation since the 90s. I don't know when I was told of the third order Franciscan groups trying to define our identity in the church because church documents would have only two classifications, that is, either you are in the cloister or you are an apostolic community. And I think this has been the struggle since the time of our Father Francis, that we were always misunderstood creatures in the church. So it's same there for those of us who know the story of her rule in our life. And our third order brothers and sisters tried to clarify in their working paper, I think the paper in the 90s, of the Synod of Bishops and Religious Life. The Franciscan life, they said, it includes elements from both monastic and apostolic religious life, but it has its uniqueness. It is not a commonplace centered on contemplation and praise of God, not on a common task, centered in the concrete mission of service to the church and the world. And our distinctiveness lies on a common heart, a prophetic witness to Christ and the hope of His gospel. So between the place and the work, our distinctiveness is to have this. Do we feel this when we gather? The common heart. In our evangelical life, we have no dichotomies. We are not sometimes contemplative and sometimes active, now in community and then in mission. Rather, we stand with the poor while not ignoring the needs of others. This life is and continues to be pondered on and enculturated, like what we do here in our gatherings. And in each century, Franciscans have tried to read the signs of the times and respond to them appropriately. And I think this is what CCFMC courses is trying to do. Some essentials remain. As we go through the world, our cloister, Francis followers embrace a communal form of life among the people. If we appreciate it very well, the incarnation, I think that is is what it means. Another essential thing that remains as we go through the world, Francis followers strive to live a contemplative relationship to God and to all creation as sisters and brothers. Francis followers affirm the role of minister as servant of all. In our model, where there is this spiral, this communal life lived along the way, the leader is not actually a center of authority, but a center of service, where she bridges where there are gaps and really walks her feet out where there are divisions. And so, as minister and servant of God, Francis followers uphold the rejection of violence of every kind, striving to be peacemakers wherever they are in all situations, and Francis followers insert themselves in the world, not having specific words, but ready for all kinds of service to promote the gospel. In that sense, I understood very well when Father Benedict said that you cannot, you are not there to take the assignment or be tied to a certain ministry in order to preserve the prophetic, the tension between the institution and the prophetic element of our life. That's the first part. As we move to the second part, what are some insights for Franciscan formation to mission? And I tried to put side by side the Testament of Francis and the call for the new evangelization. I was reading, I think it was that. It's being launched today, during the canonization, the document of the new evangelization. I was reading the working papers, and they are defining seven areas of evangelization. And I was reading it side by side with our Franciscan response, our response as Franciscans to this. And the match is very good, and it's challenging, and it's telling us we are not an extinct group. The challenge of responding and really living our charism is simply there. I would just like to, can you recall this scene from Zeffirelli? Clear. I hope our sound is working. Our sound is not working, but anyway, the picture is there. These are just small clips. Clear, Francis.
There's a love for all men
The first point here in terms of formation is formation to mission is founded on a God experience in historical situations and events where a life-changing encounter happens in the individual. The Francis involvement with the leper is not at all just a Barrick's action. It was a strong statement of the historical situation of his time. And of course, in his testament, he says, "The Lord gave me Brother Francis to begin to do penance in his way. While I was in sin, it seemed excessively bitter to me to see lepers." You saw his reaction in the portrayal of Zeffirelli in terms when he saw Claire doing it. "And the Lord himself led me among them, and I showed mercy to them. And when I left them, that which seemed bitter to me had been changed into sweetness of mind and body, and afterward I lingered a little and left the world." The vocation story of Francis is captured in his testament. He mentioned about being in sin and its manifestation in his relating with others. In his time, the lepers. He mentioned about being led by the Lord among lepers. He described the transformation effected by the life-changing encounter. The Lord led him to experience being in relationship in a new and transforming way. And so as Franciscans, as part of our reflections, we ask ourselves, what is the story of my call to Franciscan life? Whom did I see face to face? And in what historical event? Implication to Franciscan formation to mission. 1. Formation to mission presupposes that the person has a prior God experience. Initial formation to mission is founded on this life-changing experience of God encounter of the person who seeks to live Franciscan life. No amount of formative mission classes or immersion program can replace this. For us among us here who are formators, we talk about vocation story. How is this person called? Because if we are called by different agendas, not God, I don't think we can ever build a Franciscan community because our eyes would be set on a very different direction. Those who journey with young candidates are called to facilitate their awareness, the young candidates' awareness and appreciation by their life's moment of being led by the Lord. The sensitivity, to facilitate the deepening sensitivity of the experiences of being led by the Lord. Discernment of Spirit's movement and its effect in the person and his or her relationships with other people and the rest of God's creation. And accompaniment in their process of listening and reflecting on the unfolding action of the Lord in their life and relationships along the way, in their involvements with people and with events. The beginning of the Franciscan journey signaled by a growing desire to enter into fraternal relations among the poor, among peoples, with creation, ecological sensitivity, and a growing engagement with historical situations at the level commensurate to the candidate's condition. This is the concrete result of one's encounter with a loving God. Second, formation to mission is lived in community among the poor along the way. For Francis, God touched him among the poor and the outcasts. Engagement with the poor in loving mercy is a reenactment of the story of God with us, incarnation. Francis, in the process, discovers the God who comes in saving relationship with God's creatures. This is not a once-in-a-lifetime experience, but a new way of relating with all. I think most of us will go into immersion programs, but unfortunately, the immersion programs last for a week. It looks like an initiation one has to pass through and then forgotten all the way. And the old story goes on. And the poor would question, why are you here? Are you just here to pass your formation, immersion program, and then forget us after that? And the poor are becoming more assertive in terms of feeling used by our formation program.